Hey, I'm Rob for jtrpodcast.com and welcome to Board Game Ups and Downs, where I look at the individual parts of a board game and give the bits I like an up and the bits I don't like a down. That will give the game a score, which will go into a league table. So this week we're looking at the very pretty civilization game, Tapestry. But first let's look at my favourite comment from last month's game, which was Blood Rage, and P. Dorito on Board Game Geek said, so the clans not each having its unique deck is a down, but then drafting and upgrading them to make them unique is an up. Not sure I follow. Well, quite simple. This is option A and this is option B. I would rather have this. We've got this and I'm quite happy with it. You don't have to put your flag in one camp and defend it to your death. It's okay to like several things. Okay, let's take a look at the current league table. There it is. It's slightly reformatted to make the tiebreaker a little fairer. Not that this is a very serious league table at all. It is just a bit of fun after all. But you need 9 points to go top and beat Gaia Project. Okay, on to Tapestry. Now, I always start these videos by looking at components, and this is from Stonemaier Games, so this is going to get nothing but an up. Obviously, you have these lovely little landmarks, you have these lovely little buildings, even the tiny little buildings, even the cubes, the card quality, the quality of the boards, the player boards, the civilizations. It's got that nice rough feel on it. Don't know what that is. Please let me know what it is, because I really like it. It's just really nice. It gets an up. Now let's look at the rulebook. It is just 4 sheets of paper for quite a big game. That's not very big. It does what it's supposed to do. It's kept it nice and simple. The game itself doesn't actually have that many rules. A lot of the rules itself are on all the different things that you can take your actions from. This just tells you how to take those actions, and that's all that's needed. I would prefer it to be probably twice the size and include quite a few more examples just to help me when I was learning the game. I did struggle over a couple of things and had to look online for some answers. But as it is, it does a really good job. It gets an up. Now let's take a look at the capital cities. There are 6 of them. They're all slightly differently laid out. They didn't need to be differently laid out. They could have all been the same quite easily. But they do have a different layout, which doesn't affect the game too much. But one thing I do like is that the different numbers, they do your starting position. Okay, I don't like that. I don't like being told where to sit around the table because I like to be able to see the door when I'm sitting playing games. I don't know why. I just feel nervous when I sit with my back to any door. But these different capital cities, they come with different artwork, and the different artworks represent the different starting locations on the board. So if you've got this one, for example, which is the desert, which is starting space number 6. Starting space number 6 on this board is all desert. Very well done. Didn't need to do that. So different capital cities, easy for me to say, they get an up. Okay, one thing you do start the game with as well is a civilization. Each of those, the 16 that come in the game, they all do something different. They will give you a different way to play the game. That's something I do really like, where everybody's playing the same game, but they're all playing this slightly different variation. Something like Marco Polo, Terra Mystica, Gaia Project, that kind of thing. And another thing they do really well is that if you ask the players who's got the best civilization, everyone will say everyone else's is better than theirs, which is always a good sign of a well done game, in my opinion. I do like it when everybody's jealous of everybody else's player powers. So civilizations, they also get an up. Next up are the Tapestry cards. So each era you're going to put one of these on your board. It's going to give you an ability that lasts one off or to the end of that era you are in. And these are pretty cool because they give you different stuff. You need to take actions, try and draw them, try and get the ones you need so that you're playing them down and you're getting the effect that you want. The only problem is what if you don't get the card you want? What if you get one that's not very good and doesn't work well with your civilization or works opposed to your civilization? It means you need to take actions to try and draw more, where maybe your opponents didn't need to take those actions to draw more Tapestry cards because they got them. So while I do like the idea of putting these Tapestry cards on your board and you put them out and they do different things and they're really, really cool, they're only good if they're good, if that makes sense. So I'm going to give Tapestry cards a down. So if you know the game of Tapestry, you know there's 2 phases. There's either income or there's advancing on a track. So let's take a look at income first, and I really like it. People who know the channel know my favourite games of all time are Gaia Project and Terra Mystica, and you know that in those games you're trying to get items off your board to elsewhere to improve your income, which will give you more resources to use in the next round, and that's exactly what you're doing here, and I really like the way that works. I like the way it's done. I say I like it in other games, so I must like it in this game. So on top of that, you've also got upgrading your cards on the side of your board. You get to upgrade your technology cards, which is really cool. So the income phase for me gets an up. So when I first heard about this game, I heard that you do the income phase, I'll give that an up, and then you get those resources and you use those resources to move up on one of 4 tracks, and that's the entire game. I thought that sounds a bit weird. Then I heard reports that people who play tested it said it was good, and I kind of went, not a fan of Stonemaier games, as I've said in my other videos, shall I give it a go? I thought, yeah, why not? I'll pick it up, and I played it and I really enjoyed this. It makes it very simple and very accessible. You've just got the 4 tracks. You spend your resource to move up them. You're going to get stuff which you can use later. Maybe you get stuff on this track which you can then use on this track. It actually works really well. With it being so simple, you wouldn't think it would, but it does. So advancing on a track, that gets an up. And of course, each of those 4 tracks has a reason. They are called the core abilities, and each of those has to do with the 4 different core abilities you can do on those tracks. So let's take a look at those individually. The first we'll look at is Explore, where you get to put tiles onto the map, and if you line the artwork up, you get more points, just like Carcassonne, which is another game I like. And if you get to the top of that track, you get to go into space. How fun is that? Exploration, that gets an up. The science track is very simple. Roll a die and move up on one of the tracks, and maybe you do get the benefit of that space that you move onto. Maybe you don't, but just being allowed to move on any track at the roll of a die, yeah, it's random, but you never know what your crazy scientists are going to come up with in your civilization. So you're going to move on one of those tracks. It's just a nice, simple move that is kind of my default move if there's nothing else I can think to do that's going to benefit me the most on my turn. So the science track, or the research track to give it its proper name, gets an up. Next up is the technology track, which allows you to invent, and you get to take a tech card from those available and you get to put it into your capital city. As I mentioned earlier, upgrading those is something I like doing in the game. They give you a bonus. The problem is my civilization has just invented fire. Now we're making a toaster. That's a bit weird. We haven't even got bread yet. What am I going to put in that toaster? Pop-Tarts? I could eat a Pop-Tart. Of course, this is set in an alternate reality, this game, so the technology isn't going to go in order. I've mentioned a few times on different videos, I would like to see the technology cards come out in stages so that they make some kind of progression with the different technologies as you're drawing them. You're not just creating an airship out of nowhere. But the fact that they come out in a random order isn't enough to off-balance the fact that I like getting them and upgrading them and finding the ones that are going to give me the right resources for my turn. So I'm not going to give this an up or a down. The final core ability is the military track, which allows you to conquer, so you can move your outposts into the various tiles you've been placed and eventually move them into your opponent's areas and start to take over their tiles. And you also get to roll a couple of dice, which will give you the resources or points. You can take your pick depending on what you've rolled. But when you move into an opponent's territory, they can play a trap card, and instead of you taking it over, they just sort of knock over your outpost and cement that tile as their tile for the rest of the game, which is fine, except I have never seen hardly anyone move into somebody else's territory except for the person who's playing the military civilization, who's just stomped through other people's. I got to use a trap card against him once, but I didn't draw another one. I found it very difficult to defend with my little architects. They weren't very good at combat. Now, I'm not saying this is a bad thing, I just personally don't like this sort of PvP thing where people stomp through your regions. Not that it really matters, they're just going to take over some of your areas. Maybe it doesn't matter to you, maybe you don't need it for your civilization or for your scoring, that's fine. It's just that I'm not a big fan of it, but I do think it needs to be in the game. I do like that there's this sort of area control on the board of these civilizations warring against each other. I think that's fine. So again, I'm not going to give this one an up or a down, just a neutral. Let's take a look at the capital city boards. Now these allow you to build buildings on them, which allow you to create rows of completed rows and columns, which will let you score points. If you complete a big square, you're allowed to gain a resource, which is cool. And this all works really well as you're trying to sort of Tetris your little buildings in there, try and complete these different areas in order to get these points and these resources which you need. And I quite like this. It's a very nice thing you can do. You can try and get these big buildings and try and slot them in the right places to fill up as many spaces as possible in order to gain these things that you need. So adding buildings to your capital city and scoring them and using them to gain resources, that all gets an up. On the board there are 3 achievements: the first person to complete any advancement track, the first person to topple 2 opponents' outposts, and the first person to conquer the middle island. They are very nice indeed, but there is only 3 of them. Why is there not tiles in the game that allow you to change these? Maybe they need testing, I don't know. I would like to see more than 3 though. I think having these same 3 all the time, I don't know, it doesn't seem fun, especially when 2 of them are sort of exploration focused, which again isn't that bad, I guess, because civilization is going to explore, that's what they do. But I would like to see more than 3. I would like to see some tiles that maybe go over the top of them to replace those 3. I don't know how that works with game design and testing and stuff like that. I'm not a designer, I never claimed to be, but I would just like to see more. So the achievements are getting it down. So there are 2 issues I want to talk about to end this video. One is the balance issues for the different civilizations. They've been addressed for free, and they were addressed quite quickly by the publishers, so I'm not going to give that a down. I think they've done a good job in sorting those out. The other thing is the amount of downtime, and this is a game for 1 to 5 players. Board Game Geek has it at a 3 player recommended, which means that when you're playing with more people, it's going to slow the game down a lot. Turns can be quite slow, even though they are quite simple. people need to spend their time because there's quite a lot to think about when you're playing the game. So I'm going to give that a down, as well as the same down to the end game. So at the end of the game, players are going to end at different times. If you end first, you can be sat around for quite a while, especially if you're playing with 5 players, which is recommended you don't do according to Board Game Geek. So I'm going to give that a down. So there you go. If you've been counting along at home, that should be 9 ups and 3 downs for Tapestry, which gives it a score of +6. Let's see where that puts it on the league table. There it is. It's currently in second, above Rising Sun and Blood Bowl Team Manager, and below the perennial number 1 Gaia Project. So what are your ups and downs of Tapestry? Let me know in the comments below, and come back next month where it'll either be Suburbia Collector's Edition or Marvel Champions, depending if I played this one enough by the time I record the next video. Remember to like, share and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and Insta at jtrpodcast, and find the blog at jtrpodcast.com. I've been Rob, aka Jesta ThaRogue, and I'll see you soon.